Okay. Johanka also joined. Perfect. Good timing. Yeah, Hans, then I will say we just got started, right? First of all, to all the ones that have joined today's Q&A with our special guest from Denmark, Hans Christian Vittinghus. Can I call you Hans or should I call you Hoko, or I actually don't know so good?
Well, I prefer not to be called Hans, actually. So Hoko or HK, if you want to do it in English.
Hoko. I'll do
Yeah,
Hoko.
Hoko, that's fine.
For the ones who don't know Hoko, I will give a short introduction, and please feel free, Hoko, if I miss anything or I say something wrong, then you have to correct me.
Yeah, sure.
If I'm correct, you're born in Frederikshavn, 35 years old, young, if you want to say it like that. Right-handed player in men's singles discipline. Highest BWF ranking, world ranking, number 8. Yeah, there's a very long list of results, really good results. So I'm just going to pick a few. One of the highlights, I think, also for your career was winning the Thomas Cup in 2016. If I remember correctly, you won the winning point. So that's maybe even more special. Winner of the Australian Open in 2016. Runner-up of the Dubai Super Series finals in 2014. Then many titles with the mixed team at the European stage. Then I have also the last one that I remember is, of course, the bronze medal that you had at the European Championships in the Ukraine. And if I'm correct, you had one more, but I can't remember.
In Kolding in Denmark.
In Denmark.
7 years ago, 3 years ago.
So this is a tiny list of the accomplishments. Did I miss anything big, Hoko? You want to add anything to this?
No, it's fine. I'm happy with what you mentioned.
Okay, that's good. And of course, not to forget your podcast. That is, of course, listened by many players. A year on tour with Vittinghus. I think that's also, we will get into that a little bit later as well.
Yeah, sure.
What I did, I collected the questions of most of the players, and there was actually quite a few. I tried to put them a little bit together, and I'm just gonna shoot with the questions. And the first part will be a little bit about the daily life. There's many questions on how your week looks like. So how many times do you practice on court, off court, all these things? So if you can give us an insight of what it's like.
Yeah, well, my week now looks quite a bit different than what it did before I became a dad and I became an old guy as well. I'm not training nearly as much as I used to do when I was younger. Right now, I only do 5 on-court sessions a week, actually. So from Monday to Friday, I don't do any on-court sessions during the weekend. And yeah, just once a day from Monday to Friday. Then I have 3 sessions in the gym per week where I do weights. Usually I do one of them during the weekend, so I don't have 2 days full off in the weekend. I only have 1 day off. And then I have one, or sometimes, but not that often, but most of the time, just one time where I do cardio as well each week. Most of the cardio work, we do that on court during training, but I usually do once a week as well on the bike. It's usually on the bike for me. So basically I have 10 trainings a week. So, or 9, it will be 9, 5 on court, 3 gym sessions and 1 cardio session. And yeah, that's not nearly as much as I used to do. When I was younger, I had 2 or 3 days a week where I did twice in the hall. Only one time where it was a tough training, and then the second one would be just some technical stuff. But yeah, I simply just don't do that anymore because my body is not really recovering so well anymore. So if I train more or harder, I just get injured, or I get so tired that the quality of my training will just go down, and it doesn't really make any sense. So that's why I'm training a little bit less now than I used to do before.
Okay. Yeah, one of the questions we also had was actually when the time where you were around, let's say, between 16 and 18, and you were still in school. How did you cope there? Because that's a question many of the players actually ask. When you were in high school, did you train a lot, or was it not possible with school, or how did you try and fit that in?
Yeah, when I went to high school, that's actually when I really started to think that I wanted to be a professional badminton player. I was always serious about my badminton before, and I was training a lot, but that was mostly just because I thought it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed to do sports. So I was also playing tennis sometimes and football. But when I went to high school, I decided I wanted to go full out for being a professional badminton player. So I started having morning training sessions in school twice a week. But it's quite a few years ago I went to high school, and back then it wasn't so common that it was possible to have morning practice. So that was quite unusual. So I only had it twice a week,
Yeah.
and then the rest of the days I was training as well in the afternoon or in the evening in my club. I think nowadays it's a bit more normal to be training more actually than what I did back then. And to be honest, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think it's the right way to go, to just train more and more. Not necessarily. It can be the right thing to do for some, but in general, I prefer to have higher quality in the training and to have more enjoyment of what you do. Because if I think back on my time in high school, I would not have liked to be training more actually, because I also wanted to have time for other sports, or just having doing other physical things that you will also benefit your badminton. So that's my personal take on it. But for others, maybe it's better to be training more. But I just think it's really important to make sure that it doesn't compromise the quality of the training. And that's what I don't think it did for me back then.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's also about the quality of the training, not so much being on court 16 times a week and then the quality is not there. It also doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, I would actually say that there's lots of other things you could do instead of doing one extra training on court to benefit your game even more, in terms of either physical training or watching video of your matches or other matches, even talking to a psychologist or a coach if you're working with someone like that, even doing some planning of your training. So there's lots of stuff you can do off court that will benefit your game as well, and often I think it will benefit your game more than necessarily adding one extra court practice.
Some good tips for our youngsters that are listening and are present at the moment, I would say, because of course we have a few that are still in high school. They also now you explained a little bit your daily life and what it looks like. Of course it has changed a lot. What they also actually really want to know is what your favorite type of on-court session is.
Oh, that's a good question. I can tell you what my most hated one is, and that's multi-sessions. I hate those. I really like the feeling when they're done, but I don't really enjoy doing it. I think my favorite on-court sessions will be like a really intense 2-against-1 session for maybe something like 90 minutes, where you mix 2-against-1, a lot of defense and high speed exercises. I love playing defense in exercises. I think it's the most amazing feeling, just trying to get everything back. And when you have Antonsen and Axelsen attacking on you, it feels pretty nice when you get some of those shots back. So yeah, a training session with a lot of 2-against-1 mixed up with a little bit of 1-against-1 with high pace exercises and defense. I would say that's probably my favorite. And that's maybe a little strange, because I think most people would see me as a aggressive player, I think, but I actually enjoy the defensive work a lot more nowadays.
All right. I always love to see your dives, so I'm always a big fan of the dives. And then mostly ends up with the bloody knees and the elbows and the timeouts for cleaning up the blood everywhere.
Yeah, my knees are a complete mess to look at now. I have scars everywhere, and they don't look nice.
We need to buy you some bandages, for the volleyball players, maybe to protect a little bit more, a little bit extra.
Actually, my mom bought that for me when I was a junior, and I just there was a hole in them after one practice session. So yeah.
Also doesn't help. Okay. Also
no, exactly.
I think this next question will be one that you get many times. At what age did you start, and who inspired you?
Yeah, I started when I was 5, and I wouldn't really say I was inspired by anyone. I just followed along when my 2 older sisters wanted to try it out. We had at the time we had recently moved from another part of the country to where I grew up. And we got this flyer in the mail from the local badminton club, and they said there was some training for kids on Saturdays in the club, and it was mainly just playing around with the badminton shuttle and other things. It wasn't really badminton practice. It was just having fun on the badminton court. And my parents thought that when my sisters wanted to go, why not send me along so they could have some time off at home. So yeah, it's all coincidence. There's no badminton blood in the family or anything, and I'm also the only one that's playing nowadays.
All right. Well, now we got a little bit an insight. I will go to the more maybe interesting questions, or at least I think those are always interesting, and that's a little bit about the mental and emotional side of the sport, which I think is becoming more and more interesting. I can't remember who the question is from, but it says, how is it to be like when you go on tournaments? You go to the tournaments, you go back and you go back home and you go back to training and then you fly again. How do you keep going? How can you charge yourself every single time for those tournaments for such a long time?
That is a good question, and not so easy to answer, because I obviously also have tournaments every now and then where I do not reach the right state of mind, where I'm maybe not as motivated as I should be, and therefore I'm not performing as well as I should. But in general, I would say, well, I keep going and keep doing it because competing is what I love. I love badminton, of course, as well, but I think competing is basically what I really love. I think had I started playing tennis when I was 5, I could have been a tennis player, and I would have enjoyed it the same way. It's not that I have a specific love for badminton. I just grew up to have that. I think sometimes this kind of lifestyle that we have as a professional athlete is being glorified a little bit. So people think it's so cool and it's amazing, and traveling all over the world. And I think it is amazing to travel the world, but there's also some aspects of it that I find quite tough. It's a lifestyle where I would say that, of course, now when I have a family as well, I feel like I'm missing out on more things at home. But I guess for younger players, it's more missing out with for me, it was especially with my friends, that I haven't built a lot of close relationships with their friends outside of badminton because of it. That's it is what it is, but that's definitely one downside about it. But I don't think too much about it because I've chosen it myself. There's been no pressure at all, and I do it because I love to play. I love to compete. But of course, now it's also a job for me, so that's also a part of it. I also do it to earn money, make a living. So yeah, I can't really say that that's one thing that keeps me motivated. It's just all of it, that I enjoy competing. It's my job. It's my life. And it is a lot of fun also to travel with all my good friends, all the teammates I have. They are my best friends, most of them, or some of them at least. So there are amazing experiences for sure as well.
If you had these periods where you, for example, went to tournaments, and I think we all, well, maybe not the younger ones yet, but when you are in this little bit of cycle where you have a few bad tournaments in a row, how don't you think it's hard also for the mind to feel up again and thinking, okay, I'm doing the right thing, and you try again and again you fail, if you can put it like that.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, that's happened to me many times as well. And what has always helped me is to have something else to turn my attention to. I used to study as well when I was yeah, again, a bit younger. Now I have my podcast that I can spend some energy on.
Very cool.
I just I like to have some kind of project or something else going on that I can turn my attention to. And then I always allow myself to also be disappointed and kind of forget about badminton for a little while. Of course, if I'm traveling to 2 or 3 tournaments in a row, it's not that I can ignore badminton for a full week because I need to get ready for the next one. But I always allow myself at minimum 1 day off. So 1 day off training to refocus, to kind of work with the disappointment and find out how to get my motivation back, or how to motivate myself to play the next event. So I think that's quite important for me, to have something else to turn my focus to, and also allow myself to be disappointed before I start looking ahead again.
That's also important, I think if you're getting to a point where you're not disappointed anymore, it's also not right, and it takes time. That's also for sure. Here is another one, and it's a little bit in the same direction. For example, when you go to tournaments and let's say you're a big favorite, do you feel pressure, or does it work the opposite direction, that you actually feed on the pressure, that you even perform better than you maybe should, or then that your level goes up, or do you go all the way down?
It varies a lot, actually. It depends on the situation. If I've quite a few times I've been at a level where I was maybe too good to play at the challenge level, but I probably wasn't good enough to really make big results in the big events. So I had to go down on challenge level and play that a few times to get the ranking points to make sure that I could get into the big events. And in those situations, obviously, I went to the tournaments as a favorite to win. And if it was really important for me personally to win, if I could see that, okay, if I win this one, I can qualify for the World Championships, or I can qualify for something else, I would always feel it as a pressure. And it would make me more nervous and more anxious about performing well.
Mm-hmm.
If it wasn't so important for me, so if it was just to get my ranking up, but it wasn't with a specific goal of qualifying for something, it would work the complete opposite. I would always go and be really confident that I could win, because I knew that I've proven to myself many times that I could win on that level. I knew that if I not necessarily played my best, but if I had the right mindset, I would have a really good chance of winning. So it all depended on the pressure level I put on myself, how the importance I put on the event. So for me, it can work both ways, and I think that's pretty natural, actually. So I think there's nothing strange in feeling pressure if you're the favorite. But yeah, how I try to deal with it is always to think that if you are the favorite, if you feel like you're the favorite, there's a reason for it, and that's because you think you're the better player. And if you're the better player, you should trust your own game, right? If you trust your own game and you play at a decent level, then you have a very good chance of winning.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think it's also what you say, you need to then be confident, trust yourself, believe that you can do it. Do you have any, to cope with that pressure? Do you work with a psychologist, or do you giving you tools to, how to react in certain situations, or trying, of course, also doesn't always work, but at least it gives you tools to actually try and help in those situations?
Yeah, definitely. I'm not working with a sports psychologist right now, but I did for quite a few years. And actually, when I made my biggest breakthrough on the highest level was after a couple of years working with a guy called H.K.Vittinghusom. And it's not that I want to do a lot of self-promotion, but if you go find my podcast where I interview H.K.Vittinghusom, there's actually a lot of good tips in that one. Also, very concrete tips on how to work with it. I'll explain it in brief here, but if you want a more specific explanation, that's a good episode to listen to. Okay. But one specific thing I try to do is use a technique that's called the 3R technique. The 3 R's stands for register, release, and refocus. And with that, I mean, you need to, between each rally, no matter if I win or lose, I try to register my feelings or my thoughts. I try to release them, and then I try to refocus. And refocus is for me always on my game plan. I never go on court without a plan for how I either want to play or how I want to behave on court. So how my mindset needs to be. So I always do that. I always try to register, release, and refocus.
Right.
And it sounds like a lot to do between each rally. And of course, when you need to learn the technique, it is also a lot, and it takes time to master the technique. I'm not doing it perfectly. There's sometimes I don't get to really register my feelings. I don't get to release it. So I just start the next rally without really being as focused as I need to be. But if you really master that technique, it's so powerful. Because obviously, if you feel pressure, if you feel nervous, you will register that.
Yeah.
And if you find the technique to then release it and just focus on your game plan, it doesn't matter that you're nervous, because you're just focusing on what you need to do. Of course, maybe you play a little bit worse or you make more mistakes, but overall, if you use that technique, I think you're on a good path.
It's a good tip. Maybe if I make a comeback, maybe I can also use that technique to
Yeah, sure, you can.
implement myself. Yeah, but I
I
think
still haven't met anyone it doesn't work for. And I'm not saying that everyone is using that technique, but I think most top players are using something similar, where they kind of let go of the feelings. And one thing that's very important actually is that even though you let go, there's no guarantee that the thoughts or the feelings won't come back, or maybe they're still in the back of your head somehow. But what's important is just what you focus on.
yeah.
So it's okay to still be nervous. I'm often still nervous, but it doesn't matter if I just focus on what I need to do.
Yeah, that's very impressive. It's like I said, it's a very big topic at the moment, and I feel that it's the mental part gets more and more important. It's becoming bigger and bigger. If I look back 20 years, it was, of course, it's always there, but now it's evolving, and you can see that more people are working with mental coaches, psychologists, and I think it's an important part of the development. If you really want to, go far and reach high in the sport, then this is one big step to take.
I 100% agree, and I think it's one area I would have liked to start working with early in my career.
Yeah.
I didn't start until 2010 to do it on a level where I did it every week or on a continuous basis. Before that, it was very sporadic. I did it.
Okay. All right. All right. I'll move on to the next topic, which is a little bit more about tournaments, which I think for the players is also going to be very interesting. The first question is probably I'll let you decide. I think this is one of the most hard questions. What is your best result in your career? But instead of giving you one pick, I'll give you three to make it a little bit more, maybe easier.
Okay. Well, the best result, I would say, winning the Thomas Cup was obviously a big deal. But what I think was really cool about it, from my point, was that 3 days in a row, or 3 matches in a row, I played to keep Denmark in the tournament. In the quarterfinal against Japan, I had to play when the score was 2-2. So if I lost, we were out, and if I won, we made the semifinal. And at that time, I actually had never performed well at a Thomas Cup. I've always had 3 dreams as a badminton player, and that was to win the Olympics, win All England, and win Thomas Cup. So obviously it was one of the big ones for me. And when I finally won that match against Japan, it was just like so much pressure taken off my back. And that was actually, for me, that was the most important match of Thomas Cup. And then the next day in the semifinal, I played second man singles, and we were down 2-0 when I went on court. So again, if I lost, we were out. So I won, and we came back 1-3-2. And in the final, I played a 2-2 again. So play to win or lose. So that's for me the week where I performed the best in my career, because I performed under a lot of pressure. Well, other results, it's a little boring, but it's so obvious to also choose Australian Open, making the final there of a Super Series, as it was called back then. yeah, it's just amazing to win an event of that size, no doubt about that. I maybe didn't beat the best players. I had a decent draw, but yeah, it was all world-class players still.
Still need to win it, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't get anything free, and Chenlong was in the tournament, Ginting was in the tournament, so it's not like there weren't good players. I just didn't get to play all of them.
Yeah.
And the third one I would choose is actually making the semifinal of All England in 2016.
I'll remember.
That's because yeah, I had a really poor 2015. According to my standards at the time, I was struggling a lot with a heel injury. I didn't have a lot of good results, and yeah, I was just really struggling to keep my ranking up. Then I decided to get an injection in my foot and a long break in December, and I came back playing 2 weeks before All England at the European Men's Team Championships, and I played like crap. It's not to talk downplay the level of anyone, but I played against Kalle Koljonen. I know he just won the bronze medal now at the European Championships, but this is back in 2016, and he wasn't really a player you would expect I was in any trouble against, but I was actually down 2 or 3 match points against him, and I was trying to be I had been ranked 8 in the world, so it wasn't really the level I was expecting myself to be playing at. So I was quite disappointed, but then I arrived in All England, and I started off by beating Wang Qingming from China, who was ranked 8 in the world at the time, and yeah, ended up making the semi-final, playing amazing. And as I said before, All England is one of the tournaments I dreamt of winning, so it was an unreal experience for me. I wasn't close of winning it, but it was still pretty amazing.
I think making semifinals is something that we can all still dream of. Not me then, but the rest that is here on the screen can still dream about. So yeah.
I dream about getting back as well.
Yeah, so you're still in it. So you never know. Never say never,
no.
right?
True.
Then I already have an idea what your answer will be. But what is the favorite tournament? Your favorite tournament to play if you had to pick one from the tour?
Yeah, but there's no doubt it's All England.
Yeah.
The atmosphere is maybe more crazy, or not maybe, it is more crazy in Indonesia, so I also enjoy that one. But
yeah,
All England for me is just something special. I grew up watching it on TV. It's always on TV here in Denmark, and if you talk to anyone in Denmark that's not really into badminton, they will all know what All England is. They won't know about the World Championships. Actually, they won't know about Denmark Open or Indonesia Open or China Open, but All England, everyone knows what that is. So I've grown up to think of that event as the biggest one, and yeah, it's just like that for me, and I really enjoy going there every year. Last year I didn't get to play, and it hurt me so much. I even traveled there as a reserve, but I didn't get in, and I'm so happy I got another chance this year, and I can't wait to go there again next year.
Maybe 2 more times.
Yeah, maybe it's the best event. It has so much history, and the atmosphere is just special. I think you feel it as soon as you walk into the arena, or at least I do.
It's very traditional. I think if I look at the screen, I think Martina will probably agree that it's a very cool one to be part of. It's a tradition. It's yes, typical. It's a little bit the Wimbledon of badminton, if I can put it like that. If you compare it to tennis. All right. Then we have here. What else do we have? If you listen to music before you play matches. And of course, if yes, then what kind of music?
It's going to be a very easy answer. I don't listen to music.
Oh.
I've never done that. I've tried a few times, because back when I was a junior, they were always saying that we needed to try and find some sort of a routine before each match and listen to the same numbers and do the same warm-up routine and stuff like that. And I've tried it out, but it just doesn't work for me. I forget about it. I forget that I have to do it. So yeah, I'm also, honestly, I'm not a big music person. It's not that I don't like music. I can go to a concert with friends, but if I want to listen to something, I usually listen to podcasts, actually. If I listen to music, I just put on some random playlist.
Whatever is on is on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. Yeah. Very easy also then.
Yeah.
Another one that also actually popped up a few times is, well, you also know what it's like when you play 2 hard or 3 or 4 hard matches in one tournament. How do you regenerate in between? Because I know, of course, in the big tournaments, you know, you have 1 day rest, but let's take, for example, a challenge where you have to play 2. How do you do that? Is there a special way that you then focus on going back to the hotel, all these things, eat, whatever it is you do?
Yeah, well, I think when you play challenges where you have to play 2 events, it's extremely important that before you play the first match, that you are hydrated well enough. So it's really, really extremely important, because you won't have time to rehydrate before the next match. Yeah, of course you can drink and everything, but your body will just not take enough in. So if you're already just a little bit dehydrated before the first match, your performance level is going to go down so much. So I think that's one aspect that's really extremely important, that before the first match, make sure, so already the day before, start drinking a bit extra, and not just water, but something with electrolytes, minerals, or anything in it, basically, so you don't just drink plain water all the time. What I do on days where I have to play 2 matches a day, well, I try to avoid it nowadays, because as I said earlier, I don't recover so well. But if I have to do it, for me, it's really important that after my matches, I do some cool down. If I can get hold of a bike, I will do it on the bike. But other things can work as well. I've never been a big stretching guy. I've never really enjoyed that. So that's the only thing I don't really do in my cool down. But anything else of a light exercise to cool down is really important, because if you go from working at a really high intense level as a match is, and you just stop completely, that's basically the worst thing you can do for your body. You basically leave your body in some sort of shock condition. So you should cool down. You should do it slowly, and maybe it sounds illogical to have to keep on working, but it's actually better for your body to keep on working and just lower the intensity slowly than to just stop completely. So I think that's 2 really important things. And then get your recovery meal right after the match, so within 15-30 minutes start eating again. That's how I do it, and it's not really a magic formula. I think that's pretty standard for most top players. That's what you do: active recovery, and get some food, and get some hydration as well. But with the hydration, I really have to say that it's too late if you need to start repairing after the first match. You need to be at a really good level before the first match.
There's actually, I'm just looking through the questions now. There's actually one question I forgot, which I actually, I'm also wanting to know the answer. And that's a little bit about the mental part. If you play against the other Danes, Victor, Annas, Rasmus, do you prepare differently than you would if you would play someone else? Or is it because I'm guessing, of course, the competition is high between each other anyway. But do you have a special way then of preparing, or is it exactly the same as if you would play anyone else?
No, I would say I prepare a little bit different, because generally in the all Danish clashes, I think it's more about the mental game on court and the attitude than it's about the game plan. Of course, we also need to have some tactics, and I also need to focus on my game plan. But when I play the Danes, I spend more time on becoming clear on what my mindset needs to be than I do against others. Against foreigners, I will spend a bit more time on watching video to try and get an advantage that way. No matter who I play, I always watch a little bit of video, because I want to have a clear picture in my mind of the technique and how they hit the strokes, and maybe not so much necessarily about how they play. It's just important for me that I've seen the shot before, that it's not the first time I see them when I get on court. And obviously when I play Victor or Anders, it's not the first time, but it's just it kind of strengthens my picture of how they play badminton when I watch a little bit of video. But I definitely spend more time on trying to be very clear on the mental focus and what my attitude needs to be. And yeah, even though I do that, I think it's still often there. If I lose an all Danish clash, it's still in the head a lot of the times. Different story when I play Victor. He's just like a million years better than I am on court. So I haven't beaten him for like 5 years in training. So that makes it a little bit difficult when you go on court to really think that today is the day.
Yeah, I think he's a total different level. I think everybody is looking forward to seeing him in action at the Tokyo Olympics. I think it's going to be amazing.
But what is really crazy is that I think he's a lot better in training than he is at tournaments. Really? So that's actually, when I play him in tournaments, I have a stronger belief that I have a chance than when I play him in training. He is insane in training.
Yeah, so not, why do you think that is? Is he not able to get that part of his game then connected to when he plays tournaments, or are there maybe some, I don't know, nerves involved?
Yeah, well, I think the pressure is, of course, not the same in training. He knows the conditions. They suit him really well in the hall where we play, and I think it has also got something to do with the fact that he's played me now for 10 years, and he knows that he's better. He's played Rasmus and Anders for many years, and he knows that he's better than them as well. And he knows our game style really, really well. When he goes to a tournament, the pressure's on, the conditions are a little bit trickier. He needs to settle in, and the players he play there, he doesn't know them just as well. So yeah, I think it's something with that.
Yeah. If I look here at the players that we have here, many of them have probably played each other also a million times. So they probably also know how to play each other. And then sometimes it's just about who has less nerves or looks more confident.
Yeah, who handles it better.
Yeah, exactly. All right. For the last part, just some really random questions, can be also very short answers to your likes. Most difficult opponent?
Victor.
Okay.
Yeah. I really don't like playing him, and I'll tell you why. It's simply because I see myself as a physical player. I try to wear down my opponents. It's not that I don't want to win quickly, but generally I beat players because they don't feel like they get a little bit scared about the physicality in the game. They are a little bit afraid to get tired or basically die on court. And when I play Victor, I feel like he's doing that to me. I'm afraid that I will die on court, and he's just punishing me physically. And he's, I wouldn't say he's the only player that can do that, but he is one of the hardest ones for me. If I should mention someone else, it's Chen Long. I beat him the very first time I played him back in 2009, I think. And I actually told my coach, Klaus Poulsen, who you also know, that this guy, I didn't understand the hype. So I said he's not going to be really good. And then because at the time when I beat him, he had just beaten Chong Wei and he was on his way up. I think he was 12, 15 in the world. And obviously after that, he won the Olympics and the World Championships 2 times and became world number 1. So yeah, that was pretty stupid of me. And I've lost, I think it's now 12 times in a row, maybe 13 times in a row. So he's also a tough opponent for me. And again, he's a very physical player and probably with a better physique than me. So those type of players I don't enjoy playing. Tall physical players, that's the worst for me.
Okay. Yeah, that's also where your strengths lie, of course, is like you said yourself. If you can't wear them down, then it's a hard one. Let me see. Do you have what's your favorite other sport or sports person?
Well, to play, it's tennis. I love playing tennis, and I would say I love it as much as playing badminton, actually. I did play it for a few summers, but yeah, I only when I was 13, 14, 15, around that age. I really think it's a lot of fun to play. I also like watching it, but if I can choose really what other sports to watch, I would watch American football. I'm a huge fan of the NFL. I'm also a big normal football fan, but I prefer to watch NFL. I think that's the most fun sport to watch.
All right.
Besides badminton.
Besides badminton. All right. What club do you play for, and what is your best club memory in Denmark? Then, of course, because you play in Denmark.
Yeah, I also play for a Swedish club actually, called Trollhättan. Yeah, but I play for a very classic, historic, big club in Denmark called Højbjerg, which is in the Aarhus area. So the second biggest city of Denmark. I don't spend a lot of time in the club. I do all my training in the national center, so I basically only go there for matches or for a few training days a year to coach some juniors. My best memory is I won the league quite a few times with a team called Team Skalskør Slagelse. And I think we won 3 years in a row. I'm actually not sure. It's been a few years since I won the last time, unfortunately, but winning the league has been amazing every time. So I would pick any of those years. I think I won it 4 or 5 times. So any of those has been amazing. And one of my worst experiences is back when I made the final with a certain Judith Moyendijks on the team. And we were leading 2-0. We only had to win 4 matches, and we were big favorites in the other matches. And Judith had a really close match against a Chinese girl called Li Wenyan. And we even thought you won. You even celebrated like you won. And then suddenly the linesman changed his call, and you had to play the rally again. Ended up losing the match, and we ended up losing 4-2. And that was, like, to this day, I still don't understand how we lost that match. It was crazy.
Me neither. Thanks for reminding me, by the way. There was definitely
no worries.
Was definitely also my worst one, and like you said, the best one was definitely winning it together. So we had the ups and we had the downs. So we had it all together.
Well, that's true.
Let me see, what else do we have? And
Judith, sorry, I wasn't trying to get you down because I also lost my match, so you can always say that, right?
we were not the heroes in that match, that's for sure. That's for sure. That doesn't go in club history. That's fine. We are so quickly on with the next one. This interesting one. I don't know if you want to share that, but who is going to be the next guest on your podcast?
Yeah, well, I just did a interview with Xiang Beiwen from USA, and I'm gonna release it tomorrow. Actually, I already released it for my patrons, the ones that are supporting a little bit extra. So that's the next one. I don't know actually who's going to be the next one after her, but I hope that this summer I will do a few more guest episodes now that I have a lot of time at home. But yeah, I'm open to good suggestions. So if anyone who's listening now is also listening to the podcast, I'm always open for suggestions on who to take on as a guest.
Yeah, I'm also looking if anyone here has putting their finger up or wanting to say something that they think of someone who they want to see. But
if anyone is still listening.
Yeah, maybe it's just you and me, and the rest tune out. It's also possible, right? What else do we have? It's quite a long list, but there's also interesting questions. What do you think about the youngsters that are at the moment in the men's singles? There's quite a few. I don't know how to say his name. He's from Thailand, the younger guy.
I remember.
Yeah, and then you have Alicia, of course, is also quite young. What is your opinion on this new young generation?
Yeah, well, I think they're good. I think Kunlavut Vititarn, the Thai guy, is very good. I've been quite impressed with how he's developed over the past 1.5 years. Because when I saw him after he won his second World Junior title, or maybe the third, I don't even remember. He wins them all the time. I actually thought he looked a little bit unfit and not like someone who would make the cut in men's singles, but he's really proven me wrong the past 1.5 years. I think his game is very fluid and very complete. He needs a little bit more pace, I think, to be able to compete with the top guys, but he's still so young, so I don't have any doubt that he will be a top player in the future. I think there's quite a few interesting players. I think Lakshya Sen from India. I know he hasn't performed so well in the past 1.5 years, but I think he is also someone to look out for because he has a lot of pace. He's moving so fast. He has a good mind as well. He understands the game really well. So I think he's someone to look out for in the future. But yeah, a guy like Anders Antonsen, he's only still 24, and Lee Jia, as you said, I think he's about the same age. So there's a lot of good, strong guys coming up, but I think they will have a hard time, beating Momota and Victor the next few years. Victor is, I think he's from 94, so he's like 27 or something like that. So he still has a few years left, and it's the same for Momota. So it is going to be tough for these young guys in the next few years. But yeah, Kunlavud and Laksha, we need to watch out for them. But Lee Jia, of course, he's going to be someone that we need to look out for the big events, also the Olympics. He's a dark horse, no doubt. Yeah. But he's not my pick to win.
He's not. Yeah, that would be, before you answer that question. Who do you think is there to watch out from the ladies singles? There's a few ladies here, so just interesting if you have any tips. I have one. I think Line Kristoffersen is definitely one to watch. But don't know if you have a few more, because you're of course more on the floor than me.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that Line Kristoffersen is going to be the best women's singles from Denmark in a few years. I know Mia Blichfeldt has done well, and she's ranked 12th in the world, but I think Line has even more potential actually, and I think those two, and I hope those two can push each other, so we finally can see again more than one Danish women's singles performing at a high level. It would be really nice. There's a few of the Thai women's singles I really like. Now I forgot her name, but I saw her play, and she's a left-hander. I think she also beat Marin when Marin just came back from her ACL, or her latest ACL injury, or her first, not her latest. But I don't really know of the ones that are coming up besides that, because I actually think that women's singles is right now the closest contested category, because I think the 10 best players in the world in women's singles, they are so close in terms of level. So you can never know who's going to win. It's a little bit more clear in all other categories. You have 3 or 4, maybe 5 guys that can win, but in women's singles you have 10 players that are all capable of winning on the day. I'm going to be a commentator at the Olympics for Danish TV, and it is one of the disciplines, and I think actually it is the discipline that I'm looking most forward to actually commentating on, because it's going to be so interesting, and you have players from so many different countries as well. So I think women's singles is at a time right now that it's never been before in the history of the sport, because it's always been dominated by China, or then Korea, or then Indonesia has had a few. There's always been 3 or 4 from the big countries, but right now you only have 1 or maybe 2 from the big nations, but you have so many different nations performing well. I think it's amazing. But yeah, I have to admit, I'm not so strong on knowing who's coming up of the young ones. I'm more looking out for the young men's singles, the guys that I need to play myself.
Yeah, I can imagine. Which brings me to the next question. Your pick for winner at Tokyo Olympics, men's and ladies singles.
Yeah, well, I have to change my pick now, because I just read today that Marin is not going to be playing. I'm really sad about that. I'm a big fan of Marin, and I said on a podcast where I was the guest, where they also asked me that I was not sure, but I was feeling pretty confident that she would be a good bet of winning. She's a unbelievable competitor, and I was also commentating in Rio, so I was watching it on court. I was there in the hall when she was playing, and she just took women's singles to another level, and I think she was going to do that again this time. Now she can't, so honestly I haven't really thought about who I think will win now. I would give you just a crazy bit, and that would be An Se-young from Korea.
That is also
I hope Tai Su-ying will win. She's my favorite women's singles player. I just love watching her play. But I'm not sure if he will actually win when it counts the most. I think it's a big disadvantage for her that she hasn't won the world championships or anything yet. In men's singles, I think Anders Antonsen is going to win. I work a lot with him every day, of course, and he's also becoming a good friend of mine, and I think he just has a really special mindset that suits performing well at an multi-sport event like the Olympics really well. So I think he's going to have something special, but I know it's a bit risky, but and I don't think that he will be able to beat all of the good guys in a row. So things maybe needs to go his way as well. But he will be seeded 3, so with a good draw and a few surprises, I think he could be the winner. So to not just say the boring Victor or Momota, I'll say Antonsen is going to be the winner.
Yeah, a little bit more to wait, and then we'll see. And hopefully, of course, with you commentating then the match, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that would be pretty cool. And I will come back and talk to you guys again if I'm correct with those 2 picks. If Anse Young and Antonsen wins, I will come back.
I'll buy you a present. If you're right, I'll buy you a present also.
Yeah, and I want you all to put it on your Instagram stories.
Yeah. Then everybody can share, right?
Yeah. That's a deal.
All right. 1 or 2 more to wrap it up, because there's of course always plenty to ask. Did you have any big results in mixed or men's doubles?
In terms of senior badminton, I've never played men's doubles really. As soon as I became a senior, I quit playing men's doubles. I still played it when I was under 19. I won silver at the nationals, actually with a guy that I'd never played with before, because my usual partner, he was injured almost that full year, so I was just getting new partners all the time for my final year playing men's doubles. I did win the nationals in under 17 in men's doubles, so that's my biggest results in terms of that. I'm also lying. I did play 1 men's doubles match on senior level. I'm undefeated on the Danish Thomas Cup team in men's doubles. I played first men's doubles against Israel at the 2008 European Men's Team Championships. We only traveled with a small team, and then one of the doubles players got injured, and then only with a small team for the group stage. So I had to play first men's doubles with Matthias Boe against Misha Silberman and a legend of Israel badminton called Shai Geffen. I don't think anyone of you know him. Yeah, maybe you do, Judy. Yeah. So I won that match. In terms of mixed doubles, I prefer to play mixed doubles over men's doubles. I think it's more fun, and I think it also has something to do with the fact that I'm a better mixed player than I'm a men's doubles player. I think my qualities suit that game better. I played the Danish nationals for 3 years ago with Maiken Fruergaard.
Oh yeah.
And we lost the semi-final to Christina Pedersen and Mathias Christiansen. So that's my best result, because that's basically also the only tournament I played as a senior in mixed doubles. But a fun story is that I used to play mixed doubles with Christina Pedersen in under 17, but then I told her that I'm not going to play mixed anymore. So maybe that was a bad choice. I think she could have secured a few medals for me. But I wanted to focus on singles. So that's life.
Yeah. She was not the same level as you in mix, so it's then also.
Let's say that.
All right. Last question, Hoko. Longest match you ever played? I don't know. Maybe you remember against who it was.
Well, I'm not sure if it is in fact still the longest, but I remember it was the longest for a long time. I played Chen Jin from China in Malaysia Open first round. Sorry, in I think it was in 2011. I know it was because he was the defending world champion at the time. He won that in 2010. So I played him in the first round. For me, it was just a big thing being in Malaysia Open. Back then, I hadn't really had my breakthrough. That came in 2000 and later that year in 2011. I played for, I think, 1 hour and 26 minutes, something like that. And ended up losing, I think, 21-17 in the final game. And I was up 16-12. So that was really a bad loss for me. It didn't feel so bad at the time because I was just... I was so surprised that I actually had a chance of beating him, and I played so well. And one of the reasons why it was such a long match was because I kept on bleeding from my knee. So the doctor had to go in court and get the bandage on my knee to stop the bleeding. So we had a few breaks, but yeah, I think we played for 1 hour and 26. But I'm actually not sure if I've later played some longer ones. Yeah, I don't know, but that's one I remember.
When you said 1 hour 26 minutes, I looked at some of the faces of the ones in the screen. And they were like,
that is a long one, and I can tell you when you play Shenzhen, who's basically a Chinese wall, then 1 hour and 26 feels really long.
Yeah, that's even longer, isn't it? And then the worst part is then if you don't win, that makes it better. Yeah, running for 1.5 hours and then thank you, you were better.
Yeah, exactly. But that's what it's like to play most of the Chinese, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's also true. That's also true. All right. Yeah, almost an hour gone already. I'm just looking at the screen to see if there's probably many questions that I didn't ask or forgot to ask, because of course we can keep talking for 3 hours. But of course I also don't want to take up Hoko's time for 3 hours. Is there anyone who would still like to ask a question? Then I would give you the chance now. Just see if anyone, I'm just quickly looking if anyone still wants to, or maybe too shy to ask. Or you can also write in the chat if you are afraid to ask yourself. I'm just quickly checking if someone's writing. I don't think so. No. Yeah.
If you think of it afterwards, you can also always send me a message on Instagram. I might not reply straight away, but I usually reply to everyone who writes to me in a nice manner. So unless you write something really bad and offensive, then I will get back to you at some point.
Yeah. All right. Hoko, do you want to add something, or you want to give some advice to the youngsters that we have listening today?
Yeah, well, the one advice I always give when I get asked that question is that they need to remember that badminton is supposed to be fun. And with that, I don't mean that you need to laugh all the time and have fun in court all the time. But one of the things I also said in the beginning of this talk is that it's not always a good solution to be training more and be training harder, because if it takes away your joy and the way you enjoy the game, it's actually going to work against your goal of becoming a better player. So it's more important to enjoy what you do, enjoy your training, then that will up the intensity and the quality of your training. Of course, if you can train more and still have the same enjoyment, that's what you should do. But for me, no matter what level you play at and no matter what level you want to reach, you need to enjoy it to get there. If you don't enjoy it, you won't get there anyway.
All right. Well, from my side, I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to speak to all of us and to answer all these questions. Like I said, there's many more, but you already gave them the chance to, write you on Instagram in case they think of something or they're curious about something. But then I would like to say thanks for today, and also thank you for everyone who was part of it. Hoko, thank you so much for your time.
Can I just add one quick thing before I go?
Of course.
Yeah. I also just want to say that it's quite important to understand that there's not one way to become a great player. I think the Danish men's singles team is actually a really good example of that. Me, Jan, Victor, Gemke, Anders, we all do things very differently. So also when you sit here listening to me or to Kaljo, who's been on, or Marcus and Lauren or anyone, you should only take whatever inspires you and what you feel like can work for you, and it's not necessarily the same for someone else. We are all different human beings, and we are all being affected in different ways from our environment, the people around us and everything. So yeah, there's not one way to become a good player, a better player. I think that's quite important, that you should not just try and copy someone because they're good. You should try and copy them if you feel like it's the right thing to do for you, perhaps.
Yeah. All right. Well, you heard the advice, so take it. Yeah, maybe write it down just in case you forget. Yeah. Again, Hoko, thank you so much for today. Really, really appreciate it, and I think everybody is also very thankful that you took the time today. And yeah, like I said, thanks again. And we will for sure be in touch and look forward to hearing you commentating at the Tokyo Olympics.
Yeah, cool. All right. Thanks for listening to me, everyone.
Thank
you.
you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.